He doesn't understand that he's the one who has the power to stop it. He simply can't imagine that one little boy could be that important.
Turn around, look at what you see.
The Neverending Story was released in cinemas in 1984, first released in April in Germany and later in July in the United States. At the time it was the movie with the highest production costs outside the US, costing equal to $27 million. It was a critical and box office success, making $100 million worldwide, and became very popular on the home video market, spawning two frankly poor sequels, The Neverending Story Part 2 and Part 3, also a short-lived cartoon series in 1996, and a live-action TV series in 2001 called Tales from the Neverending Story, based on the successful novel of the same name written by Micheal Ende, which was released in Germany in 1979. Ende was, however, very unhappy with the final results and felt the movie strayed far from the source material and tried to ban the movie, feeling the producers were trying to make a Disney movie and missed the message the novel conveyed. It's pretty common knowledge now that the movie was based on Ende's story, but as the novel wasn't translated to English until 1983, most kids that watched the movie outside of Germany were unfamiliar with Michael's novel and were unaware of the changes that had been made. Unlike in Germany, where the novel was a huge success and witnessed record numbers at the box office. With Wolfgang Petersen at the helm as director, he co-wrote the screenplay and at the time was renowned for his U-boat movie Das Boot. He worked with painter Aldo Rico through conceptual art and designs to bring the world of Fantasia to life. Petersen would go on to direct the underrated cult classic Enemy Mine, starring Dennis Quaid in 1985, and later directed Air Force One and The Perfect Storm. The movie follows the exploits of Bastian, a young boy who has recently lost his mother and is being bullied at school. Taking refuge in an old bookstore, he is introduced to the book The Neverending Story by the bookstore owner, who taunts him into not being interested in books and reading in general. Unbeknownst to Bastian, the old bookstore keeper is happy that Bastian takes the book, secretly allowing him to borrow it. Taking solace in the old dusty attic away from the bullies at his school, Bastian gets whisked away to the world of Fantasia via his imagination. Barret Oliver stars as Bastian. Barret was the go-to kid in the 80s, starring in many TV series like The Incredible Hulk, before moving to movies like the 80s classic Daryl. He also starred in Cocoon and its sequel Cocoon the Return, and in Tim Burton's short movie Frankenweenie. Towards the end of the 80s, Barret moved away from acting, disappearing into obscurity before becoming a successful photographer and author later in life. Atreyu, the warrior and protagonist of the story, is played by Noah Hathaway. Noah performed all his own stunts on the production and had a few accidents, nearly drowning himself on the set of The Swamps of Sadness and nearly losing an eye whilst filming the fight scenes with the Gmork.
Come for me, Gmork! I am Atreyu!
In 1978, he played Boxy in the original Battlestar Galactica series. Noah also starred in the low-budget horror Troll, playing Harry Potter Jr., which became controversial as it predates the Harry Potter series, as many believe this was the influence for the J.K. Rowling novels. However, she denies ever seeing the movie. Noah went on to become a successful tattoo artist in LA and works the convention circuit occasionally in the US. The childlike Empress is played by Tami Stronach. She was only cast a few weeks before the movie and apparently lost her two front teeth before filming and had to deal with a bad lisp caused by false teeth during production. Tami concentrated on her dance career before becoming a successful choreographer later in life. Both Tami and Barret were praised for their professionalism on set by Petersen. Veteran British actress Patricia Hayes plays Urgle. Patricia had been a star of stage and screen in the UK for many years. I think most will remember her for starring later in Ron Howard's Willow as Finn Razel. Sidney Bromley plays Urgle's tormented husband, Engi Wook, the scientist who helps Atreyu. Sidney's another veteran English actor. also appeared in movies like American Werewolf in London and the Disney bomb Dragon Slayer in 1981, providing the amazing voice work to the characters like Volkor, the Gmork and the Rockbiter is actor Alan Oppenheimer. Alan starred in the original Westworld and in the $6 Million Man TV series as Dr. Rudy Wells, but he will have been part of most of our childhoods, voicing many cartoon characters, including his work on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, where he provided his talents to Man-at-Arms, Battlecat, Skeletor and of course Cringer. As there were two versions of the movie, the original German release and the international release, which was edited by Petersen's good friend Steven Spielberg, it's not incredibly different, just tightening up a few scenes. Steven received the Orin prop as a gift to thank him for his work. This now takes pride of place in his office in LA. The biggest difference is the movie's soundtrack. The movie score was provided by Klaus Doldinger, who worked on Petersen's Das Boot. Klaus's score was only used fully on the German release. However, Italian king of disco music producer Giorgio Moroder was responsible for the theme song by English pop star Lamal and Beth Anderson. Giorgio composed several other music cues that weren't used on the German version of the movie, filling gaps where no music was provided or replacing part of Klaus's work, which if you get a chance to view the German version feels pretty weird without Moroder's music, as it was so very strongly associated with the film. Giorgio went on to score the little-known Electric Dreams starring Virginia Marsden, also in 1984, which provides another hit single, Together in Electric Dreams, with the Human League's Philip Oakley. To mark the Lamal song getting streamed every day on Spotify, Noah Hathaway and Alan Oppenheimer both reprised their roles for a short commercial in 2016. I got to say, this put the biggest smile on my face. It probably shows why the first movie is so beloved.
Look at what you see.
I can't believe after all these years people are still listening to this song.
Me neither.
With this being a German production, filming took place at the Bavaria Studios in Munich, where movies like The Great Escape and The Sound of Music and the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, starring Gene Wilder, were filmed. You can visit the studios on a tour, where you're able to take a ride on Falkor, although these days it's not the original prop from the movie. The city scenes with Bastien and the Bullies were filmed in Vancouver, Canada, while the scenes with the trio washed up on the beach were filmed on location in Almeria in Spain. A lot of the production costs were used producing the visual and practical effects, especially the creatures' designs and mechanics. Creature Supremo Carlo Rambaldi's main engineer, Giuseppe Tortora, was called in to help construct the creature effects. The effects put a huge challenge on production, as up to 27 puppeteers alone were required to bring Falkor to life. The puppet spanned 16 foot, with his head spanning over 3 feet, requiring coaching on the nuances of speech whilst on set. Whilst it's true to say the effect isn't as smooth as, say, Jim Henson or Stan Winston's work at the time, I believe this gives them a certain uniqueness, and I kind of love that.
Just going to... I have to... I was trying to...
Sneak away.
Yeah. I mean, no.
Henson's team did provide the puppet work on the third instalment. I wasn't impressed with the movie or their work on the Neverending Story 3. It was far too childish. The production relied heavily on blue screen to deliver story elements. Again, due to the inexperience with the technology, some scenes and effects worked better than others, giving that washed out look. However, I remember at the time this felt normal, as so many movies delivered effects this way, which was also seen in movies like Crawl from 1983. For a kids' film, The Neverending Story can be a scary and dark affair. It definitely has influences from the grim fairy tales and deals with some religious and moral allegory. But nothing that threatens the world of Fantasia, deals with what potentially happens after death, and many real-life problems are dealt with, such as loneliness and depression, and suicide and grief, in what must be the most harrowing scene in a kids' movie, with the death of Atreus' horse in the Swamp of Sadness.
Vortex, please. You're letting the sadness of the swamps get to you. You have to try. You have to care. For me. You're my friend. I love you. Vortex! Stupid horse! You gotta move or you'll die! Move, please! I won't give up! Don't quit! Vortex!
My own personal relationship with The Neverending Story is a movie I feel quite personal about. Like young Bastian, I too lost my mother the year the film was released, and around the same age. And by the time the movie hit the screens here in the UK in 1985, I remember very clearly how this film rang true to me. It was possibly the reason I have such affection for the movie. Although I never sought solace in the dusty attic of my school with a book based in fantasy, I don't think it had one. My solace came from the medium of film, TV and comic books, and their distraction has helped me have such a passion for movies today. I don't really have any issues with this movie. As a kid and still now, the only thing I dislike is the reuse of the Sphinx gates that represent the Oracle. I thought this was pretty lazy. The Oracle has no form in the novel, but this may be down to budgetary reasons. As mentioned earlier, there are many differences with the source material. Some are not so unknown today, like Atreus' original form would have been green skin with blue hair. This was tested and rejected. I would have imagined this would have played the blue screen effects. He was portrayed in this form in the 90s cartoon, however. Also planned but never shot was Atreus rescuing Falkor from Agramel the Many, a shape-shifting swarm of hornets that take form of a giant spider, and an epic battle involving the wind giants. This would explain why the gnomes treat Atreus and Falkor for wounds when they arrive close to the Southern Oracle, but these proved too difficult to realise and would have pushed the growing budget, so were removed from the script. As the movie only really deals with the first half of the novel, I would suggest that you give it a read, if you haven't. The second half is a pretty dark tale, seeing Bastian giving up his memories to rebuild Fantasia and trying to become a dark dictator over his own created world. The Neverending Story Part 2, which incorporated some of the elements of the second half of the novel, but doesn't capture the tone, and because of legal battles, the rights took too long for the movie to get to cinemas. As mentioned, the third movie is a total disaster. Like many movies in the 80s, there was a tie-in video game released by Ocean Software on the C64 and other systems, which was an adventure game which was pretty much uninspired. However, I did love the theme music. Warner Brothers have been trying to reboot the series, bringing a true version of Ende's novel, but this is becoming difficult and has stayed in development hell. I'm sure with many fans of the original this would feel very different, although I'd be fascinated to see what this modern version could be like, and I would imagine it would be a movie trilogy. The Neverending Story is a great movie that can be enjoyed by kids today and revisited by adults. It's full of iconic characters and has a special feel outside the studio system in the US, which gives it a certain unique quality. It's definitely in my top 10 movies of my childhood.
Let the Oran guide you. If the ivory tower still stands, take us there.
Let me know your views on this movie and its sequels in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing to my channel to keep up to date with my videos, and you can follow me on the usual social media sites, and please check out my Patreon to sponsor this channel. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks a lot.